Hi everyone, welcome to today's video. We're going to look at Blackberry Picking by Séamus Heaney. Okay, so in this poem, we're just going to quickly go through it. You'll have done it in class, so we're just going to do a quick revision video of just going through the Poetic Devices, explaining what it's about. We'll start with the first verse, and then we'll continue with the second verse and explain not just what the poem's about, just maybe what it's a metaphor for. Okay, so I'm just going to read through it, and I'm going to just make little notes as we go through. So, Blackberry Picking by Séamus Heaney. Late August, given heavy rain and sun, for a full week the blackberries would ripen. So, it's important to set in the time, late August. Okay, so summer's just about to come to an end. So, the heavy rain and sun for a full week, and the blackberries would ripen. At first, just one, a glossy purple clot. Among others, red, green, hard as a knot. Okay, so use of simile here. Okay, as hard as a knot. So he's describing how hard the berries were at the beginning. They were like a knot. Like if you have your laces and you tie them in a knot, it's very, very solid. Okay, so it's a simile you there used to describe that. You ate that first one and its flesh was sweet like thickened wine. Okay, again, another simile. He's comparing there the juice from the berry to thickened wine. Summer's blood was in it. Now, this is metaphor, so it wasn't actually summer's blood. It was just the juice. So he's calling it summer's blood because it's a summertime berry, and there was obviously a red colour to it, so he called it summer's blood. So that's a metaphor. Leaving stains upon the tongue and lust for picking. Okay, so there were stains on his tongue. That's the imagery there. You can see the imagery in that. And lust for picking. So they felt they really, really wanted to get out and pick more. Then red ones inked up. And that hunger sent us out with milk cans, pea tins, jam pots. Where briars scratched and wet grass bleached our boots. Okay, so the briars scratched, first thing, that's the description of touch. So he's trying to hit the five senses here. Now look at the briars scratched and wet grass bleached our boots. Okay, so the repetition of B's there lead us to believe that is alliteration. Okay, so he's using alliteration there. Round hayfields, cornfields and potato drills we trekked and picked until the cans were full, until the tinkling bottom had been covered with green ones, and on top big dark blobs burned like a plate of eyes. Okay, burned like a plate of eyes again here, simile. Now, there's also a bit of onomatopoeia here, the tinkling bottom. Okay, so we'll just take that out there to spell it. So, O-N-O-M-A-T-O-P-O-E-I-A. Our hands were peppered with thorn pricks. Again, the description of the touch. So their hands were peppered with the little jags that would be on the berries. So they were peppered with thorn pricks. Our palms sticky as bluebeards. Okay, again, a simile. Okay, and if you want to do a bit of research, look up who Bluebeard is there that he's comparing his palms to there. Okay, so that's the first verse, and you can get the tone there of hope and excitement. Okay, the excitement is building in this each time. Okay, so we're going to go on to verse 2. There's a change in tone, like many of Heaney's poems. If we think about when all the others were at Mass, the second tone, or the second verse, the tone changes because something different has happened. We hoarded the fresh berries in the byre. Now, again, the B and the B, it gives it a great sound, alliteration again. But when the bath was filled, we found a fir. Now, F, F, F. Okay, so again, alliteration. A rat-grey fungus glutting on our cash. Now, this is really, really good. This is a metaphor. So, if you've ever had berries in your home, raspberries or blackberries or blueberries, if you leave them to rot, a sort of fur will develop over the top of them. And he's comparing that fur to a rat-grey fungus. So, it was as if the fungus was a rat who had escaped in and was glutting on our cash. So, glutton means eating. Or cash there means... or the stuff we'd hoarded away. The juice was stinking too, and you can hear the disappointment in his voice now too. The juice had begun to stink. Once off the bush, the fruit fermented. Again, the fruit fermented. The sweet flesh would turn sour. So alliteration again. So a lot of alliteration in this poem. Okay, so once off the bush, the fruit fermented. So if you're familiar with your science, that's what you do with apples and to create cider. They ferment, and actually they do have to rot in order to get the quality they're looking for. So the berries ferment, the sweet flesh turns sour. I always felt like crying. So the word always is key here, because this always happened. I always felt like crying. It wasn't fair that all the lovely canfuls smelled of rot. Each year I'd hoped they'd keep, knew they would not. So he hoped, but knew they wouldn't. So, and it shows there's a bit of a theme in there of hope and knowing. Often we hope about things, but we know that the opposite may well happen. Now, we talked about what this poem could be a metaphor for. It could also be a metaphor for life, about how people age. Okay, we mentioned this before in class, that people age. Their skin, their body, it gets older, but it also starts to it gets older. The skin, it starts to disappear. They start to get frail. They start to lose senses, maybe lose the ability of limbs, different things. And we hope that doesn't happen, but we know that it will. Okay, so that's just going through the poem. So the first verse is full of excitement about the berries. The second verse, then there's the inevitability of what's going to happen to all these berries that have been taken off the bush. Okay, we have had alliteration, we've had metaphor, we've had simile. So if you're talking about this in the junior cert exam, very simple. If you're asked about the poetic devices, you talk about alliteration, metaphor, and simile. You can put onomatopoeia in there as well. You also need to know what the poem's about and what message the poet is sending and the imagery that he creates. Okay, thanks for listening.